It's not been the best week for Liverpool this week, certainly one of the few dark moments in our fantastic run this season. Despite missing out on a treble, Liverpool still look set to win the Premier League by some margin, which for most fans, we can consider this a successful season. However, despite having the title in the bag, certain pundits like to try and kick Liverpool when we are down, regardless of how their own team is performing. One person who is often guilty of this is Gary Neville. The former Manchester United fullback cannot keep Liverpool out of his mouth, and we will take a look at what the obsessed pundit has had to say about the Reds after our Carabao Cup defeat to Newcastle. We will look into this today whilst also going over all the latest Liverpool news from the last 24 hours. There is so much to discuss in today's video, so be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool content. But first, Federico Chiesa is in a position unique to the rest of the Liverpool squad this month, which could give him an advantage after his Carabao Cup final goal. Chiesa scored his second goal for Liverpool in the closing stages of Sunday's 2-1 defeat to Newcastle at Wembley, amplifying calls for more game time. Supporters are now hopeful that the Italian, who has only started in 3 of his 11 appearances for the club so far, could be more heavily involved in the final 9 games of the campaign. That could be boosted by the fact that Chiesa is the only fit outfield player who is not on international duty this month. With 20 senior Liverpool players called up, the winger was the only player overlooked by his national team coach for any reason other than injury. Chiesa's absence from the Italy squad comes due to his lack of appearances for Liverpool, with Arne Slot clearly not trusting him to either start or come on frequently from the bench. But with the 27-year-old able to spend the next fortnight focusing on training and taking a mental break after a frustrating week for the Reds, he could return to Merseyside in a stronger position than those on duty. Fellow forwards Mohamed Salah, Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo, Diogo Jota, and Darwin Núñez will all join their countries this week and almost certainly add to their workload for the season during World Cup qualifiers and UEFA Nations League clashes. Having Chiesa fresh, particularly on the back of his positive impact in the Carabao Cup final, could prompt Slot to call on his number 14 upon the restart. That is unlikely to come as a starter, regardless of fan sentiment, but the winger seemed to prove a point with how sharp he looked in his cameo against Newcastle. Liverpool have a 17-day break between fixtures, with their next coming at home to Everton on April 2nd, and they need 5 wins in their remaining 9 Premier League games to secure the title. Chiesa is also 2 games short of the 5 appearance threshold to be guaranteed a medal if the Reds win the title as expected. While he would almost certainly be given a medal either way, there is every chance Slot turns to his only summer signing more often in the final 2 months of the season. The only other senior players not on international duty this month are the injured quartet of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joe Gomez, Connor Bradley and Tyler Morton, along with goalkeeper Vítězslav Jaros. Jaros is on the standby list for the Czech Republic, meaning he could also be called up if there are injuries to their initial selection. Now Gary Neville has made his thoughts known after the Carabao Cup final. As former Man United fullback, Gary Neville has slammed Liverpool boss Arne Slot after the Reds lost 2-1 to Newcastle in the League Cup final. The Geordies won their first domestic trophy for 70 years at Wembley on Sunday. Liverpool were second best for most of the game as Newcastle carved out the game's best chances. Dan Burn headed the Magpies into the lead on the stroke of half-time before in-demand striker Alexander Isak knocked in their second only 7 minutes after the break. Federico Chiesa did get a goal back for Liverpool in the 4th minute of injury time at the end of the second half. Slot made a number of changes in the second half to try and rescue the match, but Neville reckons Liverpool got even worse when the substitutes were introduced. Speaking after Curtis Jones, Darwin Núñez and Cody Gakpo came into the action, Neville said, "If anything, Liverpool are getting worse." The former Man United fullback added, "The substitutes haven't helped them. The midfield is scattered. There are gaps everywhere." Neville later claimed that Slot's decisions and tactics were throwing shape out of the window for Liverpool. The right-back added, "The substitutes haven't helped them. The midfield is scattered. There are gaps everywhere." Neville later claimed that Slot's decisions and tactics were throwing shape out of the window for Liverpool. Liverpool boss Slot admits his team found it difficult to handle a week, which included being knocked out of the Champions League by Paris Saint-Germain and losing to Newcastle. Slot said in a post-match press conference, "Disappointing result, disappointing performance. So completely different than I felt after the Paris Saint-Germain game. Losing twice in a row is something I think we do for the first time. But that probably also comes with going into the latter stages of a tournament. So facing Paris Saint-Germain and Newcastle in a final are two very good teams, both in their own styles, but very difficult teams to face because we already knew from the game at St James's Park how difficult it is to beat them. It was a tough week, but it was also a week where we extended our lead in the Premier League to 12 points from it being 10, so it wasn't all negative, but the last two were definitely not the way we wanted it to be." What do you make of Neville's comments? Let me know down below. Finally, head coach Arne Slot tried to put a positive spin on his worst week as Liverpool head coach. After exiting the Champions League to Paris Saint-Germain on Tuesday, they lost a Carabao Cup final. They were favourites for 2-1 to Newcastle. Arsenal's win over Chelsea earlier in the day meant his side's lead at the top of the Premier League was cut to 12 points. Disappointing result, disappointing performance, completely different to how I felt after the PSG game. Slot said after Liverpool lost back-to-back games for the first time since April. It took us 7, 8, 9 months to lose twice in a row, and it happened against two teams, one fighting for Champions League qualification, and the other is PSG. I want to make clear the week started really well by us beating Southampton. You know, if you go further into tournaments that the opposition gets stronger and stronger, and even Liverpool can lose games. It was a tough week, but also a week where we extended our lead to 12 points from 10, but the last two results were definitely not what we wanted. The Dutchman insists Liverpool were not feeling the effects of a testing season, in which until Tuesday, they were in genuine contention for 3 trophies. Mentally is always difficult to judge. Were we on Tuesday mentally or physically tired? No, he added. This game had nothing to do with running, but only to do with duels. There was no intensity in terms of running in this game at all, so you can't judge if we were tired mentally or physically because we could not press them. You can judge a team if they press, but there was nothing to press because they played over our press. Mentally, that's a difficult one. If you look at the result of the performance, you might feel it maybe did something for us, but I prefer to look at how this game went. And it went exactly how they wanted it to be, a fight with a lot of duels through the air. But that is all for today's video. Thank you for watching, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for daily Liverpool content. Thank you, I'll see you in the next video.